Neil took a deep breath. He needed to be calm, rational. This current state of affairs called for proactive solutions. He wasn't going to lie there and wait for the seagulls to peck his eyes out. If he had to, if it came down to it, he'd drink a cup of piss. He rolled onto his belly and slowly pulled himself up. His legs were wobbly, and he got dizzy if he stood too fast, so he took his time, using the wheel for balance, making his way into the cabin. The interior, which had once looked like a serene and stylish room in a boutique hotel, now resembled a bedroom after a tornado, or the inside of a dumpster. He fished an empty wine bottle off the floor and made sure its screw top fit. The bottle had to be airtight. That's the first rule of flotation. How many messages had he cast into the sea? So many he'd run out of paper. What could he say that he hadn't already said? How could anyone rescue him if he didn't know where he was? After rummaging in the cupboards, he found a soggy paper bag and tried to write, but the paper disintegrated in his hand. He took out his wallet and removed his last business card. It still looked impressive. Still said, Neil Nathanson, Director of Special Collections, and had the name of the investment bank he worked for, the Wall Street address, phone number, and email. He turned the card over and thought about what to write, wondering how to sum up his situation as clearly and succinctly as possible. He wrote the word fucked on the back of the card and slid it into the bottle. Neil screwed on the top, giving it an extra twist to make sure it was tight, then staggered to the doorway. He looked at the boat. It had been a pretty awesome boat, sleek and unadorned, as if designed by a Scandinavian architect. A Beneteau Oceanus 38.1. Neil knew that because he'd found the owner's manual. He wondered if it had any salvage value. Would his boss be able to recoup some of the money? Neil figured that it would be the kind of boat he'd buy if he had an offshore account full of illegally skimmed millions and liked sailing. But he was now pretty sure he didn't like sailing. He chucked the bottle out into the night and waited for the splash. Neil might have dozed off, might have fallen into a mini coma, if that's even a medical condition, but he woke with a start. He blinked, trying to get the abrasive crunch of salt out of his desiccated eyes. Was that a light? In the near distance? He blinked again, wondering if he was hallucinating. But the light continued to glow, moving on a course perpendicular to wherever the current was taking him. He needed to send a signal. There was no power, no flare gun, no flashlight. Neil thought he could potentially ignite some tangles of rope, but they were hopelessly snagged in what was left of the rigging. The dot of light was moving away. This required him to make an executive decision. He would explain it to his boss later. Neil hobbled into the hold and lifted one of the large duffel bags stacked on the floor. He reached into a cubby and took a bottle of lighter fluid, something he'd considered drinking only a day ago. He carried them out to the front of the boat. The prow was what they called it, and unzipped the bag. He knew the duffels contained a mix of currency. There were euros and dollars, yen and yuan, and a grab bag of bills from various Caribbean islands and Mexico. Neil upended the bag, and neatly wrapped bricks of money fell onto the deck. He recognized some notes from the Dominican Republic. Old school guys on one side, and a building that looked like a bad hotel on the other. And some Jamaican bills that had a pissed-off black man in a suit and tie on the front. The stack was almost 3 feet high. It was a lot of money, over $1 million US. But like the saying goes, you can't take it with you if you're dead and the seagulls are pecking your eyes out. Besides, it wasn't his money. Not exactly. Neil emptied the lighter fluid on the bills and struck a match. The stack ignited with a whoosh, sending him tumbling backward. He scrambled away from the flames, crawling aft toward the cockpit. He stood and scanned the horizon. The dot was still there, still visible. Maybe not a mirage after all. The smell of burning resin and wood jolted him. The currency was burning.